Hi everyone. Today's video is going to be focusing on a mental illness that I've been dealing with since I was a really young girl, and I just felt that I really for some reason needed to make this video. The last video I posted was about a medical condition that I've been suffering with called akathisia, and just a quick update. I've been doing a lot better. I think the cause of it, why it was lasting so long, was actually because of some medication that I was taking, which were benzos, so like Valium and stuff, that were actually doing more harm than good and causing interdose withdrawals, and that can bring on akathisia. So since I've started a taper plan and I'm switching from this short-acting benzo to a longer-acting benzo, I've had some improvement, which has been good. But it's going to be like a really long journey to get off the benzos, and I'll do a separate story about that, because there are so many people who are also having to go through that journey. But today I wanted to talk about something called body dysmorphic disorder. And it's not really that well known, but it's definitely more known than it was, 5 years ago, or, ever, I guess, because I think social media is becoming a huge cause, is triggering people's body dysmorphia. And because social media is such a huge part of life now, we're starting to see these conditions just pop up in people so much more than what they used to. I wanted to give you some quick information on it. This is from the Mayo Clinic. So basically, the symptoms of body dysmorphia include being extremely preoccupied with a perceived flaw in appearance that to others can't be seen or appears minor. Strong belief that you have a defect in your appearance that makes you ugly or deformed. Belief that others take special notice of your appearance in a negative way or mock you. Engaging in behaviours aimed at fixing or hiding the perceived flaw that are difficult to resist or control, such as frequently checking the mirror, grooming, or skin picking. Attempting to hide perceived flaws with styling, makeup, or clothes. Constantly comparing your appearance with others. Frequently seeking reassurance about your appearance from others, having perfectionist tendencies, seeking cosmetic procedures with little satisfaction, that's really important, and avoiding social situations. The preoccupation with your appearance and excessive thoughts and repetitive behaviours can be unwanted, difficult to control, and so time-consuming that they can cause major distress or problems in your social life, work, school, or other areas of functioning. Usually people with BDD, they pick on one flaw more than another. For a while it can change, and I'll go into more about that soon. So basically my first, how would you put it? my first problems with BDD started when I was in primary school. I'm going to try and upload some photos to help with this video. But when I had a really happy childhood. There was no abuse. There was nothing sinister going on in my childhood that triggered this. I do, however, have a family history of depression and anxiety and OCD. And OCD is really closely linked with body dysmorphia because it's obsessive thinking. It's an obsessive thought pattern. So yeah, I had a really happy childhood. I enjoyed my younger schooling years. I went to a really nice school and I had just the best friends. But when I was about year 5 or 6, I remember our teacher in class had us do this activity where we would all we had like the old school projectors, and we were doing some shadow kind of artwork type thing, and we would each stand up one at a time in front of the projector. We'd stand up in front of the whiteboard, turn to the side, and she would trace our profile, our facial profile. I can't remember what we did with that. Oh, my child's kids messenger is just popping off. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so I remember her drawing my outline, and I went back to my desk and looked at it, and I was mortified, like just mortified. I saw this gigantic nose, like, just, to me, it was the size of the Eiffel Tower. And I was so embarrassed. No one seemed to be reacting around me, but I was just so embarrassed. And I thought, oh my gosh, people are looking at this right now. And I just want to die. Like, this is just the worst. Anyway, she ended up rubbing it, like, off and doing someone else's profile. I think we had to copy our profiles on paper or something. That was the first time that I paid any sort of serious attention to my appearance. Before that, I didn't really have too many problems. So that was pretty, I don't know, worrying, and so I kept thinking about my nose, and I started to get a bit funny about my nose, but it wasn't anything too bad. But the next thing that popped up was my ears, the size and shape of my ears. I used to wear my hair up in primary school. I used to have all sorts of different hairstyles. Never really bothered me, but all of a sudden, I don't think anything triggered it. I all of a sudden started noticing the size of them. I think it was in school photos, maybe. I looked in school photos and I just thought, what the heck? Like, there's just all these normal kids and then there's Dumbo. I can laugh about it now. But, I was so embarrassed and so horrified. I just saw these hideous things attached to my head, and from just one particular day I was like, I cannot have anybody seeing these things ever again in my entire life. So I went and I bought, well, my mum bought what are they called, headbands, and these were kind of like starting to come into fashion at the time. I'll try and post a photo of me wearing them. And I hadn't told my mum really any of this, but I wore this headband and I covered them over my ears. Usually you wear headbands behind your ears like a normal person. But for me, I covered all my ears. And I wore those headbands for a good maybe 3 years, maybe even longer. And I'm talking from the moment I woke up to the time I went to bed, I would take it off and go to bed. I did not want anybody to see my ears ever again. I was like just mortified by them. People were asking me like, why do you wear them? Like, oh, they're over your ears. Let me move them for you so they're in a normal position. And I was like, don't touch them. Don't touch them. And it would have been so strange to other people. And I think I told my mum about it. I can't remember how. But obviously she saw something was up. And so in heaps of my school photos, all my sports carnival photos, all my netball photos, I'm wearing these headbands. And I thought that by wearing them every day, if I just wore them every day for like 5 years, maybe it would make my ears smaller and not stick out so much. That's just that was my thinking. My dad used to say, he's like, I have big ears. I grew into them, you know, like you'll grow into them. And I was just like, I can't wait that long, you know, and I'm never going to grow into them. These things are horrible. Like I need them cut off. And so it became such a problem that I actually spoke to my mum about seeing a doctor, a surgeon, and getting my ears pinned back, which is a procedure where they literally like stick your ears back to your head so they don't stick out so much. And it was that was kind of what was going to happen, because my parents were just they would always tell me how beautiful I was, how perfect I was, that there's nothing wrong with me, but I just did not understand it. I did not see it. And I think my mum was just so distressed seeing me so distressed. She was like, I don't know what else to do. This is the only way that it's going to make her feel better. And it was really funny. I think after all these years, even in high school, I think year 8, I was still wearing headbands. And it was really hard for me because I was a dancer. I did a lot of dancing, and I went to, I won a dance scholarship to go to a high school to do the dance program. And I would still wear it during dance lessons and things like that. And it suddenly occurred to me that at the end of year performance, we were going to have to wear certain outfits, and that I would have to take it off, and I'd have to have my, my ears out for everyone to see. And the thought of that just made me want to vomit. And I started having social problems at school. And that was one of the reasons why I ended up leaving that school. I don't think I really said anything to my mum at that stage that was one of the reasons why I wanted to leave. But I just could not deal with the thought that people were going to see what I truly looked like at the end of the year. It sounds so silly. But I didn't end up having the procedure, because one day it was kind of like, it just clicked, and I started wearing just my hair down without the headband. And I just was in the bathroom playing with my hair, putting up, because I'd never got to put my hair up without my headband. So when I was alone, I would do it, because no one would be able to see me. And for some reason, they didn't seem so bad to me all of a sudden. This was after I'd left that high school. So it was literally like 4 years that I wore that headband. And then all of a sudden it switched so quickly to my nose again. And I was just horrified of my nose. like horrified to the point where I can only explain it as, you know, Picasso paintings and the face is just all, you know, like the nose is over here, or this really huge, or the eyes are small, or, you know, that's how I saw myself, as just this Picasso painting of hideousness. And I switched high schools, and I went to a high school that was closer to me, where some of my old childhood friends were at. And that was just one of the worst experiences of my life. I was bullied so badly. And I know now that I was bullied because, well, firstly, if someone's bullying you, it's because of their insecurities of themselves. But also my mental disorders didn't help. And I wasn't diagnosed at that stage. That was soon after. But no one knew what was going on for me at school. I think I started wearing some headbands again, and the girls at school who didn't know me, who, like I was new, they would always ask me, why are you wearing that headband? It's like, take it off. Well, what's wrong with you, type of thing. And I'd just say, I really like headbands. Like, it's my thing. But they obviously knew something was up. And that's when I started checking myself all the time, in mirrors, in reflections, anywhere. So if I was walking past a window, I would look at myself and sort of check myself out and try and make sure I wasn't looking so hideous to the point where people would laugh at me. And obviously to these girls, to anyone, that would look like this person is obsessed with themselves. Like, they're looking in the mirror at themselves all the time. They're leaving class to go look at themselves in the mirror in the toilets. They're constantly all about their appearance. Like, obviously that would seem like this girl's really up herself. So I would get teased about, I'd get things written about me in the toilets that were just really mean. I started hating the rest of my body, the way my legs were, the size of my breasts. And as a dancer, I had really good posture. So I don't anymore, obviously. But I would constantly walk around like really, just like with a really straight back. And the girls would write things in the toilets like, you know, she's trying to stick her boobs out to make them look bigger, and because she has no boobs. And that just made everything worse. Then I went to my boobs, and I'm like, I have no boobs. I'm just like this ugly boy looking thing with a huge nose and huge ears. And then I remember this boy in computer class. We'd barely spoken a word to each other, and he just turned to me and said, "Oi, Pinocchio." And that to me just ruined me like that, because that was the first time that someone had noticed a flaw of mine. Like, I do have like a larger nose, you know, I don't have a tiny nose. But that just horrified me, that now other people were really noticing my flaws, and it just like concreted my beliefs. Like, you know, people would say, oh, you know, it's all in your head. But I'm like, no, this person told me that my nose is huge. So it is huge, and everything is like solidified now. You can't tell me any different. And at a party in year 8, this guy just came up to me and was like, that boy over there said that your nose is so big he could swim in your nostrils. I was like, I tried to play it cool, and you know, but it was just, again, like just a kick in the guts. I was always just been bullied for something about my appearance. Something. I'll probably do another video about bullying later. But I was a tall girl. I was just always quite tall. So the skirts that I wore in high school, they were the same size as everyone else's skirts. But the girls, they looked shorter on me because I had really long legs. And the girls would go into the office every morning and say she's rolling her skirt up to make it short, and she's trying to show everybody her like undies and all this kind of stuff. So then I would be made to go to the office and put on these hideous, like, you know, spare clothes. And then I'd have to walk around all day with these girls laughing at me because they knew exactly what they did. But yeah, I'm going to go into a video more about bullying another time. But anyway, so it got so bad that I stopped going to school. I was having panic attacks. I stopped seeing friends. I just couldn't stand to be at school anymore. I couldn't stand people looking at me anymore. I left because of the bullying, but also because for me, I don't know if this is the same for other people with BDD, but for me, I would imagine people talking about me. So when I would walk past, it was almost like some kind of psychosis. Like I would hear whispers, and I would hear people, you know, look at her nose, or look at her ears, or, you know, look at this, look at that. And so I was just being tortured in my mind. And so my parents, well, my parents thought, okay, something's really going on. We need to get her looked at because she can't not go to school. And I would just not go to school. There was nothing you could do to make me go to school. She would drive me to school every morning, and I would cry and cry and cry in the car. And even if she would have just dropped me at school, I would have just run away home anyway. There was nothing you could do to make me go to school. So it was starting to interrupt my social life, my daily life, my home life, everything. I just became so depressed, so withdrawn. It was just, there was obviously something wrong with me. So my mum took me to a child and adolescent psychiatrist and psychologist who did thorough testing and things like that. And from there, I was diagnosed with OCD, anxiety, depression, and then body dysmorphic disorder. I'd never heard of it. I don't think my mum had ever heard of it, but it all made sense. And I remember my psychiatrist saying to me, you know, there's nothing wrong with your nose. You know, you have a normal nose that was made to fit your face. You wouldn't look at your nose and point at it from across the street and go, look at her nose. I remember thinking, like, what is wrong with you? Look at me. You know, I remember sitting in front of my mirror with scissors, wanting so badly to chop my nose off. Like, just sitting there, just trying to get the guts to do it. Trying to get the guts to do it. Every time I was just too afraid of what my parents would come and find in my room. This nose chopped off on the floor. But I did I don't know if I can say this on Facebook because they're starting to monitor everything, but I was self-harming. And I didn't know how to express the way I was feeling. I refused to take medication because I was afraid of medication. So I started to do counselling, and I ended up going to a school for kids who were also dealing with mental health issues. It was just a really small school of like 10 kids. And I'll do a separate video about that as well, about my experience there. So yeah, it basically took over every part of my life. I became a recluse as well. I wouldn't even would want to go to the letterbox to get something out of the letterbox. If I had to go to the shops with my mum in the car, when she would go into the shops, I would duck down in the seat so that no one would see me when they walked past. I just became so terrified of everything and everyone and anyone seeing me or looking at me. And because I'd just disappeared from school, when I would bump into people, they'd be like, where have you been? Like, there's all these rumors about you, about what happened to you. I couldn't give them an answer. I couldn't say I'm mentally unwell. I couldn't do that for some reason. I didn't think they'd understand, or I thought I'd get teased about it. So if anyone is listening that I went to high school with, I wasn't up myself. I was actually the opposite. I was terrified of myself. And I was just trying to survive. But I can see, it doesn't make the fact that they bullied me any better, but I can see how I would have appeared to other people. And it wouldn't have made sense to them. And that's the way my brain's always been. So after I did start medication, and I did a lot of therapy for a lot of years, eventually I began to deal with it better. I still always wanted a nose job. I've always wanted cosmetic surgery since I can remember. I've always wanted my breasts done. I've always wanted my nose made smaller. I've always wanted my ears changed, my lips bigger, just whatever. I've always wanted it. And from what I know, it's sort of an observation. I think BDD can go two different ways. I've only ever met one other person with BDD, and I met her when I was in Perth Clinic 4 months ago. I won't say her name, but she was just such a gorgeous soul. And the difference between us physically, I noticed that it can go two different ways. You get people with BDD who will go to extreme lengths to perfect themselves. So extreme cases of surgery, you know, you get those like shows where it shows American people who want to turn into Barbie or Ken, or those people have BDD. Like, it's an obsession of their body appearance. Or it can go the other way and you want to mutilate yourself. And this beautiful girl, she's so beautiful, had completely mutilated her entire body. And it just broke my heart. But I was so amazed to meet someone else who had the same disorder, because I've never been able to talk to anybody about it just openly and just say, oh my gosh, this is how I feel as well. And I would spend hours, you know, I'd put on like so many layers of makeup, trying to fix flaws or hide freckles that weren't even that noticeable. But to me, they were just, I could not leave the house until I just had completely changed my appearance. I looked like someone else. I'm sorry my videos are so long, but you can't shorten these. They're really important for other people to listen to. What happened next? I think I started to have so many other life issues that my mind gradually began to be taken away from the BDD a bit to where it wasn't such a huge issue eventually, but I'm talking years and years and years. So I was, dealing with just a lot of other things. And, as it says on the Mayo Clinic, you seek out reassurance from other people. And I did that with guys as well. If a guy would come and say, you're so beautiful, I would just be like, oh, that's really nice to hear. And I'd get sucked in by these guys who would obviously just say that to anybody to get what they wanted. But it can put you into a really bad situation of just constantly seeking reassurance. And every guy that I was ever dating or anything, they would always cheat on me for someone who looked like a Barbie doll or something. And I just thought, again, you're just solidifying everything that I've ever felt about myself, that I'm just ugly and worthless. And it was just really crap. It was really hard. I also want to make a disclaimer that just because you don't like things about yourself, you might say, oh man, my legs, I don't like my legs, or I really don't like my freckles or something like that. That doesn't mean you have body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is to the point, it's an extreme thing to the point where you don't want to be here anymore because you hate your body that much. I think a lot of people just will kind of put their hand up and say, I have it, but it's like, no, this is a real serious thing. And I mean, you should go talk to someone if you feel like that your life is being changed in such a dramatic way. You should go talk to someone about it, because it is getting worse with social media and things like that, with all these famous people, or these Instagram models who Photoshop themselves. They might look really good in real life, but they also still Photoshop themselves. So we're constantly being bombarded with images of females who aren't even real. And if they, there are so many everyone's beautiful, but the female body, there are obviously some Instagram models who no one normally naturally looks like that, like they've had ribs taken out and things like that. They are photoshopping themselves. Everybody has, some cellulite or scars or things like that, and they do Photoshop them out. And that makes it really hard for young girls growing up. Social media was only just starting up when I was in high school. So I can only imagine how hard it is for girls now growing up in high school who are just being bombarded with images of the perfect body and perfect women. We're going to get a whole surge of people with body disorders and eating disorders and things like that. And I have had, problems with my body and eating. I've had two children, so I've put on a lot of weight with both of them. And there was this one time where I just looked at my body in the mirror and I just thought, you're hideous. You're hideous. You can't go out. And I still will stay inside and not go out on the days that I just feel really bad. I don't want anybody to see me. But I just stopped eating. I stopped eating and I just was on my exercise bike all day. And I'm 176, 177 centimeters, so I'm pretty tall. And I got down to 55 kilos. So I think I've got a photo, but I was really, really tiny. And even then I thought I was disgustingly fat. So it does tie in with things like anorexia and stuff, but it's not quite the same. But a lot of people who do have anorexia also have BDD. Anyways, I am probably leaving a lot out because I've blocked a lot out. One of my coping mechanisms is to block out things that were really traumatic. You know, but I'm doing so much better than I was when I was younger. I'm accepting myself a lot more as I get older. I'm lucky that I don't have a lot of money. Otherwise, I would not look like this. I would, you know, I would have got my nose done. I would have had my breasts done and everything like that. But the thing is that with people who do that with BDD, they're never happy. They will always be they will always find a flaw in anything. Even after having their breasts done or their nose done, they will still look at themselves and find a flaw. So it doesn't fix anything. Surgery doesn't fix anything. And I always say to people like Michael Jackson, he 100% without a doubt had body dysmorphia. And I can understand how he went so far with his surgery and what he did, because you try and fix something and then it just makes it worse in your mind, or, you know, it still hasn't made it better. So you keep going and you keep going. But one thing that's helped me, I think, stop taking so much time, like I can leave the house without barely any makeup on now, like, you know, whereas back in the day I would have been caked on with makeup. But having kids, I don't have the time for that anymore. My kids come first. So even if I have to leave the house feeling unhappy, I just have to leave the house feeling unhappy. I'm like, this is as good as it's gonna get. I have to take my kids here or there and this appointment or whatever. So I just have to leave the house. And then eventually, after doing that, you realize that people aren't stopping you on the street to say, oh my gosh, look at you. You know, people aren't saying, you're hideous, go home. Like, they don't care. They don't care. People are focusing on themselves. They're not worrying about you like you think that they're worrying about you. It's the same as when you go to the beach, and this is pretty much goes for all women. All women are pretty like, feel pretty exposed in a bikini. You go there and you think, I can't, this is horrible, everyone's going to be judging me. No one cares. They're just thinking about themselves. They're thinking the exact same thing. Once you get out of your own head, it just gets easier. And also I found cognitive behavioral therapy really helpful. Where you got to rewire your brain and your brain's way of thinking. Also, medications can help. It did help me for a long time. They have helped me for a long time. I'm choosing not to take any medication right now because my body just needs a break. But I feel like I have enough tools in my kit to deal with my OCD and my body dysmorphia right now. But to girls out there who are, like, I went to the shops the other day, and these girls were all dressed the same. They all looked the same. They are obviously all seeing the same images online and the same clothing online and the same influencers online and wanting to look like them. And it just made me sad, because I know how that feels to want to be someone else, and I feel like these girls are wanting to just fit in really badly and be someone else. But I hope they can find their individuality, and I wish that I had found my individuality rather than constantly taking things from other people that I liked about them and trying to apply them to myself so that I would feel better about myself. I wish I'd just said, hey, this is me, take it or leave it. But that's really hard when you have a mental disorder. So yeah, there's a little bit of info for you about my story with it. If anyone else deals with it, comment below. If you have a similar story or have something you want to add, feel free to comment. I want my channel to be for people who want to share their stories as well. It's not about me. It's about everybody just being open about mental health and being open about things they've gone through, because no one's perfect. Everything these days is about not showing the bad side of your life. But it's okay to do that. It's okay to say, I've struggled with this. I'm struggling with this. So go ahead and do it. Make your own videos if you have a story like this, because there's not a whole lot out there on body dysmorphia. Anyway, I love you all, and thank you for watching my long video. I'm going to make a lot more videos on mental health, but also other things as well. So yeah, I'll see you on the next one.